Welcome to the Health Stuff You Need to Know podcast. Information you need to thrive in our toxic modern world. I'm your host, Scott W. Kirkland. I hope you're ready because it is go time with the Wellness Web. Yeah! Welcome back, everybody. Glad you could be here to listen in. Just wanted to let you know before I start today's episode that I will be changing my release format. When I first released the podcast, I planned to release an interview episode with a wellness expert and a listener's digest episode where I digest down some of my favorite podcasts into one episode so you get a lot of great information in a short amount of time. But what I've found is that the back-end production of the episodes is taking a lot of time, and between work, having a new baby girl in the house takes a lot of time, holy mac, and other familial obligations, I really just don't have time to produce 2 episodes a week. So what I plan to do is produce and release 1 episode per week and alternate between weeks between the interviews and the Listener's Digest episodes. So I hope everyone is okay with that and likes that, and I'm sure you will. Thanks for listening. Now let's get on with the show. Today, my guest is Kristy S. Rodriguez, pre- and postnatal wellness expert and advocate. Is the owner and founder of Pure Nurture LLC, a business devoted to educating and inspiring women to nurture and nourish themselves through pregnancy, birth, and the postpartum period. As a holistic health coach and registered yoga teacher specializing in pre- and postnatal wellness, Kristy works with individual clients as well as teaching classes and workshops both in person and online. Her passion for prenatal health and wellness began while she was pregnant with her first daughter. After her pregnancy with her second daughter, she decided to dedicate her work to supporting women who are pregnant or trying to get pregnant, as well as mothers of newborns. With her accumulated years of experience in education and health, she brings extensive knowledge and personal experience and deep compassion to her students. In a supportive and non-judgmental way, Kristy helps her clients and students live healthier, happier, and more energetic lives. All right. Well, welcome to the show, Kristy. I'm very glad to have you on.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome. I love the work you're doing. I just think it's so important because there's so many issues in the world today, especially with kids. We have obesity, diabetes, so many different problems. But if we can help mothers teach their kids healthy habits right from the start, we're going to solve so much of that right from the get-go. So I applaud you for the work you're doing.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anything else you wanted to add to the bio I just read?
No, I think you pretty much covered everything.
Okay, perfect. All right, let's jump in. So just about everyone these days has had a health challenge. Please share a health challenge you have been through and how you managed it.
So I've had 2 health challenges. The first one came up when I was in my late teens, early 20s, and I was in college, and I developed an eating disorder. It started out with just kind of controlling what I was eating, turned into full-on anorexia. And then from there, it went from anorexia to compulsive binge eating. And then it went to bulimia, where I was actually purging as well. And it wasn't until I found myself purging that I thought, I need help. I was afraid to get help beforehand because I was afraid that getting help meant I would gain weight. And that was something I did not want. I was a former dancer, and so being thin was really important to me at the time. So I ended up getting some help with a woman that specializes in eating disorders. And then from there, she sent me on to a therapist who helped me. And it was a really long process, but I thought the eating disorder was all about the food and just wanting to be thin. And through all of the work that I did and the healing and the learning, I realized it's about so much more than the food. And so it took quite a few years, and it was a process of, healing, going a few days, then a few weeks without binging and purging, and then having a relapse for a couple days. And then slowly there was more time between the relapses until one day I hadn't relapsed anymore. And that was about 12 years ago. So it was a long process. And then that was the first kind of health issue I dealt with. And then the second health issue I dealt with was after I had my first daughter. About 10 months after I gave birth to her, I was diagnosed with postpartum depression. And I didn't even know, again, same thing with the eating disorder. And I think when you're in it, you can't see it. And it took someone else saying to me, just as with, well, it was people telling me that they thought I had an eating disorder, but I didn't want to hear it. But in this case, it was someone telling me, I think you may have postpartum depression. And that was a relief to me because I didn't understand why I was having all of these fear-based thoughts and kind of obsessive compulsive thoughts and emotional outbursts. And so I went and saw a specialist, and sure enough, I had postpartum depression. And it was surprising to me because I thought that postpartum depression showed up within the days and weeks after giving birth. I didn't realize that it's something that you could get diagnosed with months after birth. And I think that that's something really important for women to know, that it can come on any time within that first year. And I had also started weaning breastfeeding around the 10th month. And I think that, that's another component of it. Your hormones start to shift when you start to wean. And I think that that's really kind of pushed me into another level of postpartum depression that made it even more intense. And so I did all of the things, a lot of the things that I write about in my book, Pure Nurture. So many of those things are tools that I use to help heal from postpartum depression. And then I used all of those things with my second pregnancy 2 years later to prevent postpartum depression because I did not want to experience that again.
I can imagine. Yeah, it must be a horrible experience to go through.
It's hard. Yeah. Because you think, oh, I just have this brand new baby and I should be feeling so much love. And everyone talked about this is the most amazing time in your life. And you're having these crazy thoughts and you're feeling super emotional and having crying outbursts. And, and so it is, you just feel like there's something wrong. And then, it's more common than we think. I mean, 1 in 6 or 7 women suffer from postpartum depression.
Oh, really? It's that high?
It is.
Oh,
it
amazing.
is. Yeah.
Actually, I have a baby girl. She's just 10 and a half months right now.
Oh.
And what a joy she is. It's absolutely amazing. And so I know you hit that 10-month mark where you kind of hit the postpartum depression. So I'm hoping it doesn't happen to us. Can it happen Can it happen to the male, or is it strictly like it just happened to the mother?
You know what? That's a good question. I don't know I don't know the answer to that, but I know, I'm sure that the dad can experience depression. I'm sure that, it's overwhelming. You're losing sleep. Your life is completely changed for both the mom and the dad. So it would make sense that, the father could experience, some sort of emotional distress as well.
Exactly. If mom's not well, then dad is going to feel that.
Exactly.
For sure. So what were some of the things that you did to help get you out?
So when I think about health, I think about it from a holistic standpoint. So it's looking at every aspect, mental, physical, emotional. And so I started doing meditations. I started going to a therapist so I could talk about things. I started practicing more yoga to just start to move my body, doing some breathing exercises in yoga. We call it pranayama. And so we would do some pranayama and just working to release some of those emotions and try to come into a more relaxed place, and getting more sleep. The biggest thing, asking for help. I was trying to do everything on my own. And even when my husband would say, can I help you? What can I do? No, I got it. And I think, it's asking for help was probably one of the biggest things that helped me, and realizing I can't do everything on my own and I don't have to do everything on my own. We put so much pressure on ourselves, and so much so that the biggest aspect of that I did for prevention for my second pregnancy was hiring a postpartum doula. So after my daughter was born, a couple of weeks later, I had not even a couple, maybe a week or two later, I had a doula come in that specializes in the postpartum period. And that saved my life. I have tears thinking about how powerful and helpful that was. And I remember at the moment thinking, this should be built into our system, Our mothers, when they go home from the hospital, should have someone come to help them, even if it's with meal prep and laundry and, and then even with helping with nursing. I had some issues trying to breastfeed at the very start, and, and she was there to help me. And when she got to a point where it was beyond her expertise, she would ask if she could help find me a lactation consultant, and just kind of helping me and supporting me and mothering me as I was trying to mother my brand new baby.
Absolutely. I like to think of things in a context that we're living in revolutionary times. Like, things are changing so much. And I live in the Pacific Northwest. When I think about the traditional native people that lived here and how they lived, it's very, very different from what we experience today. Like, back then, they would have had a whole village living in one little community. And if you needed childcare, it's like childcare is all around you. You've got support with you all the time. But fast forward to today, and it's very, very different. We have the nuclear family. We're all separate. We really don't have close-knit connections so much anymore. So I think that is a huge challenge, and it makes a lot of sense to get help, ask for help, and having a doula makes a ton of sense. We used a midwife during before and for the birth, and a little bit after. Probably could have used a doula. It really helped, I would think. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does. We are all spread out, and I have a chapter in my book called Your Pregnancy Tribe. And it's that same idea where, who are you surrounding yourself with, and, who are the different people that you need to support you. And, related to pregnancy, not necessarily postpartum, your OBGYN or your midwife and your doula, or maybe a massage therapist, maybe a prenatal chiropractor that specializes in prenatal wellness, whatever it is, acupuncture, anything, even if it's just your specific friends or classes that you go to, or groups, even if it's an art class, like that, getting the people around you that are going to support you emotionally. And, after birth, it's even more important to have that physical help, having people bring you some meals. And, I think having your tribe and being supported and surrounded is one of the biggest factors in staying healthy and feeling your best.
I'm curious as to, when you have your coaching clients, like, what is the process? Like, how do you help them? How does that work?
So it's really client led. So it's really led based on what the woman feels she needs support with. I have themes around the sessions, and it's all about the coaching is coming from a non-judgmental standpoint. It's an accepting standpoint. It's a loving, supportive, interaction. And I really allow the mom to lead in what she needs. And maybe that would be more nutrition support. I had a client that was, drinking diet soda all the time, and she knew that wasn't going to be the best thing for her and her baby. And so we talked about, rather than saying to her, no, you cannot have diet soda, and this is why it's so bad, we talked about, what can you have instead of the diet soda? It's this idea of crowding out. So we're always coming at things from an affirmative, positive point of view, because just human nature, even with kids, and you'll see as your daughter grows, when you say don't do something, or no, or you can't have that, that's what they want even more. That's what they focus on.
Exactly.
So instead, it's like redirect the attention, focus on what you do want them to do, focus on what you can have. So we work a lot with that. And other women, they want more yoga. They want more meditation. They're feeling a lot of stress. Maybe they're eating well and they're happy with their diet, or they don't want to change their diet because there's already so much going on in their life. They don't want to think about that. So then they focus on the mental, emotional, and just bringing more mindfulness into their life, more meditation, more relaxation practices.
Can you talk a bit about the meditation practices that you recommend?
Sure. There are so many. And so I really like to recommend that people try out some different ones and see which one feels best for you. Because for some people, you can do a meditation just literally focusing on your breath. You can watch your breath coming in and going out, and all you have to do is say to yourself, breathing in, breathing out, and just breathing And then that allows the mind to have something to focus on, and it allows all of the planning and thinking about the past and what's going to happen next. All of that starts to fade away because you're giving your mind something to focus on. The other type of meditation that I really like is counting. So you breathe in and you count your breath coming in. Maybe it's 4 or 5 counts as you inhale, and then exhaling the even amount, 4 or 5 breaths, and just allowing your inhalation to be the same as your exhalation. Again, giving your mind something to focus on. And then with prenatal, it's important to allow the breath to be like the ocean, coming in and going out, because we never hold our breath in prenatal. So it's one of the things is just a fluid breath, and you can do mantras. Some other meditations involve the breath, which the one I really like involving the breath is alternate nostril breathing, where you breathe in one side and breathe out the opposite side, and then breathe in that opposite side and then back out.
Oh, that's when you use the finger, right? You
exactly.
close my nostril with your finger. Yeah, I've tried that before. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, that's really nice. I really like that. So, and there are so many more. So, I mean, if, I feel like if somebody were looking for some recommendations, they could just Google, search meditations for pregnancy, and a bunch of things will pop up, and they could try some. And then also in my book, I have, I think, 2 or 3 pranayama exercises and meditations to practice that I find are the most effective, that I use in my yoga classes.
Well, what's pranayama?
Pranayama is just breath work. It's just the Sanskrit name for breath work. Since I teach yoga, I use a lot of Sanskrit words. But yeah, it's just breathing exercises.
Excellent. Yeah, it's such an ancient practice. Like, it's been around for so long, and it definitely works. There's been so many studies proving that meditation really works. I myself do meditate and try to, but it's challenging, because that's the common term is the monkey mind. It's that that chatter that just keeps incessant, and it's difficult. But I think part of it is really setting the time aside and saying, okay, I'm going to do 10 minutes a day to start, or something just to get the ball rolling, and then just kind of build on that success.
Exactly. Yeah, just making it part of your routine. And another really nice way to meditate is to listen to guided meditations rather than trying to sit there alone with your own thoughts. It's nice to press play. There's so many apps and then different podcasts that have a ton of guided meditations, and just pressing play. And then for whatever specific amount of time that it is, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe even 20 minutes, and you just sit and listen, and you're guided. So that way, when the monkey mind starts to act up, or when you go off into, planning your grocery list, there's somebody there, there's a voice there that's saying, okay, now come back to your breath. And that is my favorite way to do it at home. I always listen to a guided meditation.
Oh, fantastic. That's a great tip, because that's something I haven't actually ever tried. And I have that problem of the mind just going off. So yeah, I'm going to give that a try. Thank you very much, Kristy. I appreciate that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, there's a ton out there. So, try some out and see which one you like the best.
Yeah, we have so much access to great information these days. It really is fantastic. So I'd like to ask you a bit about the nutrition that you recommend for women that are pregnant.
So it's another going back to what I talked about with the idea of crowding out and that non-judgmental place of looking at nutrition. Of course, being pregnant, you want to eat as healthy as you can be. At the same time, you might not want to eat as healthy as you can because you're so nauseous. Maybe you're vomiting. Maybe, the idea of food makes you just feel so sick that you can't even think about eating anything. And so I come at it from a very gentle standpoint, especially in the first trimester. So the first thing is, if you're feeling nauseous, eat whatever you can keep down. Eat whatever you can possibly imagine eating. And then as your appetite gets better, or, you're moving on in your pregnancy, then start really focusing on the nutrient density in foods. Of course, it's very simple, not easy to do, but very simple. The fruits, the vegetables, whole grains, nuts, and seeds. And if you eat meat, then lean proteins. If you eat dairy, I'm not afraid of the whole milk, dairy, there's more nutrients in it. And when you're pregnant, that's what you need, focusing on getting more nutrients. And so, I eat the whole fat yogurt. I eat, when I actually don't drink that much milk, but when I was pregnant, I wanted a cold glass of milk. And so I tell women, don't be afraid of drinking the 2% milk or the whole milk, because it's giving you more nutrients. When things are non-fat, fat-free, they've gone through a process. And that process of taking out the fat it actually is taking out some of the nutrients as well. And so it's not as filling. I think if a lot of people like drinking diet soda or drinking low-fat milk, you're going to get those calories somewhere else. So if you want to fill up on whole fat, nutrient dense foods, and lots of water and just avoiding processed foods, avoiding sugar. But then, if you're craving ice cream, allow yourself to have the ice cream. I look at nutrition from not only the actual physical nutrients and the micro and macronutrients in the food, but also the mindful aspect of eating, the emotional side of eating. Sometimes we crave things for emotional reasons, and sometimes we crave them for physical reasons. And so if you really want some ice cream, have a glass of water, see if it's still there. And if it is, allow yourself to have ice cream, and then be kind with yourself about it. Not to make ourselves wrong or, oh, why did I eat that? I shouldn't have eaten that. And then spend like a half hour beating ourselves up for something that we feel that we've done wrong. And that aspect of nutrition is just as important as what we're eating. So really non-judgmental, kind, kind of just broad look at food. Eat whatever really is going to fill you up, and tune in with your body to what's going to feel your best, and crowd out some of that stuff that's not so nutritious with more nutritious options, apples, bananas, whatever it is. Like, think of filling up on those things and leaving less space for the less nutritious things. And when you want those less nutritious things, allow yourself to have it in moderation, and don't make yourself wrong for it.
Fantastic advice. I find it interesting that during pregnancy, women can have some almost, you would say, bizarre cravings. Like some women will crave pickles and peanut butter or who knows what. And I do believe in the innate wisdom of the body. Like if you're craving something in particular, that you should probably go with it. Mm-hmm. There's probably something in it that your body wants and needs for this particular phase of the development. It's
a really good point. I was a vegetarian for 15 years. And when I was pregnant, I would dream about eating hamburgers. And I was like, oh, why do I keep dreaming about eating hamburgers? I haven't eaten a hamburger in 15 years. And then I went to one of my doctor's visits and did a blood test, and I was anemic. So, so it was, my body was, it was like my subconscious in my dream state telling me, you need more iron. So I gave in, and I don't enjoy eating red meat, but at that time I knew that that's what I needed more of. And there's vegetarian forms of iron, but that really felt like what I needed. And I found that when I did give in and started eating more, grass-fed, healthier red meat versus like the factory farming, but really, local sources of red meat, I stopped craving so much sugar. Oh, and really? So that's interesting as well. Yeah.
Oh, do you know why that would be?
I don't. I'm sure there's a physiological reason for it.
Oh, mm-hmm. Interesting. Do you recommend any supplements for women that are pregnant?
So there are a ton of supplements out there, mm-hmm. and it's pretty overwhelming. So the one thing, if a woman is looking for supplements, I always recommend a food-based prenatal multivitamin, because it's all of the nutrients coming from food. There's no synthetic ingredients, no fillers. It's just all food-based. And so I recommend just a prenatal multivitamin, food-based, good quality omegas for brain health, the developing baby's brain health. And what else? I mean, it really just depends on the woman and what she's looking for. But I think just basic, those would be the two best places to start.
I agree, absolutely. I was doing some research on synthetic vitamins, and a lot of them are made using coal tar as the base,
Yes.
and all kinds of chemicals like
Mm-hmm.
formaldehyde and acetone, and like these are chemicals you would use like to manufacture like boats and things. Like not this is not something you want to put in your body. So yeah, it's great
Yeah.
advice. Is there a particular brand that you recommend for of the whole food vitamin?
Yeah. So I use New Chapter
Oh yes, yep.
and New Chapter. And what's the other one? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name.
I take Mega Food. Is
My Mega Food.
that's one?
Yes.
It's another whole food one. Yeah.
That's the other one. Yes. And the other one, I started using, someone introduced me to it after I was pregnant, is Juice Plus. It's fruits and vegetables that, they're dried down and then they're put, pulverized and put into capsules. And it's literally fruits and vegetables in capsule form.
Oh,
And so
really?
it's another supplement to look into.
Absolutely. I love the idea of the thing is we do our best to eat healthy as we can, but with our busy lifestyles and the fact that we're constantly surrounded by easy, cheap junk food, that if you do indulge on occasion, like say you had that ice cream, that you also supplement with some real food. Like basically, it's concentrated real food to kind of make up for that loss of good calories that you would have gotten.
Yeah, exactly. And I also love it for traveling because sometimes when I travel, I've in the past I've gotten sick. Eating a lot of salads and non-cooked foods, and I would find that sometimes I would get sick. And so I started eating more cooked foods, soups, stews, pasta when I would travel. And so I really loved having my whole food supplement like Juice Plus, taking it with me, because then I felt like at least I'm getting, some form of, fruits and vegetables this way, even though I can't get them fresh while I'm traveling. So that's been helpful.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Absolutely. So I'd like to ask you, what is the best health advice that you've ever received?
So the best health advice is to listen to my body because, there's so many, just thinking in terms of diets. You can go to the bookstore or look on Amazon and there are hundreds of thousands of books about diets, the paleo diet, the raw, vegan, vegetarian, a ton. And so what I've realized, because I've tried to follow different ways of eating, trying to be as healthy as I can be and do my best and feel my best. And I realized, all of us we have different blood types. We have different, just our makeup in general is different, even the amount that we exercise, it affects our need for different calorie intake. And so when I look and see like all of these rules and regulations about how to eat, sometimes it didn't feel good. And so I think the best advice is try out some different things, eat, different things, and then whatever feels best for you and for your body, that's what you do. As I tried to do a raw vegan diet, and
how'd that work for you?
It did not work at all. I was freezing all the time. I had low energy, and yet one of my very good friends eats mostly raw, and she's vegan, and has glowing skin. She exercises every day, has all this energy, and yet for me, it was like depleting me. So, who knows why that is, but it's that idea that no one diet, no one way of eating, just like no one way of exercising, even the hours of sleep we get. Some people, my husband can go on 5 hours, 6 hours, and he is good to go. I need 8 or 9, or I cannot function. And so it's really knowing what's going on for your body, what feels best for your body, to, regardless of what anyone's telling you. Try everything on for size and then become very aware of what your body needs and then listen to your body.
Yeah, I agree fully because I watch a lot of documentaries and I see them. A lot of people are promoting, vegetarianism is the way to go, or raw vegan is the way to go for all. There's 7 billion people on the planet, and that's the way for all of us. And I think that's absolutely ridiculous because that's just not the way. I tried veganism myself primarily for environmental, because I thought it's a more sustainable diet, and it is in certain ways. But I had a similar experience to you in that I started to faint. I was like passing out. I would stand up, and all of a sudden I was dizzy, and I was like, okay,
this is not working for me. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was back onto the animal products for sure.
Yes. So
Yeah.
out of curiosity, what blood type are you?
I am O positive,
Yes.
which
So
is
I'm O as well. And that's according to the blood type, the blood type diet, O is hunter gatherer.
yes.
And so, yeah, it's because I had the same exact experience of you. So I don't, again, I, take everything with a grain of salt, but just for my own curiosity, anytime I hear that, I'm always like, I wonder if they're an O.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, Kristy, could you share with us a personal habit that contributes to your excellent health?
Going to yoga. That is my thing. I love practicing yoga, and it helps me physically, mentally, and emotionally. If I haven't been to yoga in a while, I start to feel achy, I feel stiff, and that's, only the physical side. And then the emotional side, I'm shorter with my girls. I have less patience. And even my husband will say, have you been to yoga lately? And I'll be like, you know what? I haven't. And he's like, you should probably go to yoga soon. And I go to yoga and I come home and I am just, I just so much more grounded and relaxed. And I used to do practice a power vinyasa yoga, which I loved. And it's interesting, since pregnancy and since having kids, I still love that, but that was all I did before. And now I'll do it maybe once a week, maybe once every other week. And I am loving the more gentle yoga, the more like yin yoga, where it's just slower moving and more about stretching. And it's not about like that fluid, movement from pose to pose. I'm loving just really feeling that, getting into that rest and digest mode for my nervous system. It's just been so healing for me.
Fantastic. Actually, I wanted to back up a little bit. You had mentioned initially that you had some eating disorders with bulimia and anorexia. And I was curious as what helped you get out of that? Because I'm sure there's lots of people out there that are experiencing that right now. So what got you out?
Yeah. No, I think, and I write about that in the book as well.
Oh, it's in there as well. Great.
Yeah, I talk about my eating disorder just in terms, of even if you haven't had an eating disorder, you probably know someone that has, or you just have, maybe you have some aspect of disordered eating. And for me, I mean, several things helped me. The biggest was just going to therapy and realizing that it wasn't about the food, and realizing what other aspects of my life were out of balance or things that had happened in the past that needed to be healed. I was using the food as a means of managing my emotions. And I was, starting out with anorexia, it was a way to, I was a freshman in college. Everything felt uncertain. I felt a little bit insecure. And so when all I was focusing on was, how many fat grams have I eaten today? And this was like the 90s when, the fat-free rage, everybody was like, that's what everybody was doing and everyone was talking about. So I was like, I need to eat, like 3 grams of fat a day or less. And, now we know that is absolutely ridiculous. And no wonder I couldn't think straight, because brain needs fat to function properly. But I was using that as a way to control my life that felt a little bit, everything felt a little bit out of control. So that was the one area that I could focus on. And so having other tools and things that you can use to relax into life, whether that's religion or spirituality or meditation, just doing some things to ground you and help you to feel like you're not so much in your headspace and really coming into your body. One of the tools that worked for me the best out of anything that anyone gave me, it was the woman that I had started seeing that first helped me with my eating disorder. She told me, put your hand on your heart and put your other hand on your belly and close your eyes and take a deep breath and ask your body, ask your heart, ask your belly, is it my belly that's hungry or is it my heart that is hungry?
Oh, wow. Interesting.
So powerful. And I started sobbing. because I realized it was my heart. It was the emotion of whatever it was at that time, that was hungry. I was not physically hungry. And it took me a lot of time to figure out, what does being hungry feel like? What does being full feel like? Because I had shut that off. I had totally negated that kind of the body language. The body speaks to you. And I said, the best advice I got was to listen to your body. So again, anybody that's going through an eating disorder or has disordered eating, hand on the heart, other hand on the belly, and really connect with your body and ask, what does it need? Because maybe it doesn't need food. Maybe it doesn't need a whole pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream, which was my go-to. Maybe it's not that. Maybe it's a hug. Maybe it's a phone conversation with a friend. Maybe it's reading a book, and really tuning in to your body and what is it telling you. And I will say, I'll recommend an author that her work is one of the biggest pieces that brought me up and out of my eating disorder is Janine Roth. She has multiple books about just emotional eating, disordered eating, even if you don't have an eating disorder. Just one of her books that I really enjoyed the most was When Food is Love. And that, reading those books really helped me to understand what was happening and why I was using food the way that I was.
Interesting. I'm going to try that technique next time I have a craving for, for some junk.
Yeah, exactly. Say, is it like, I want some chips? Like, what am I feeling? Am I feeling a little tense or angry? Exactly. Is that why I want to like munch on something hard and crunchy and salty? Or am I like feeling really depressed and sad? And that's why I want some like cold, creamy ice cream.
Yeah, I had to say, but for me, it was Haagen-Dazs. I was used to be addicted to down a pint of Haagen-Dazs when I was basically feeling it like emotional, like it was either stressed or sad or lonely or something like that. So we're getting close to wrap up time. So I wanted to ask you, what is the good news about achieving excellent health in the world today?
Let's see. I think there's a huge movement toward holistic healing. When I think back to my dad had gone through 2 bouts of cancer, and he really, and doctors are amazing. I'm so grateful for everything they do. And for him, the doctor was the be all end all. If whatever the doctor said, that's what he did. And I think that that's important. Obviously, listening to your doctor, doing what you need to do. But I think there's a movement today of listening to yourself, listening to your body and knowing when something is off. And then knowing that there are a ton of techniques that you can do to complement any other aspect of healing and wellness that you're using. All of these kind of looking at it from a holistic approach, mental, physical, emotional, even spiritual, if you're a spiritual person, religion, whatever it is, and looking at that as a one big full circle, like the whole pie, and how each of those pieces can come together and really support you from a holistic point of view. And so, personal empowerment to really take charge of your health. I'm loving all of these stories about people that are on, for example, blood pressure medication, and then they start changing some lifestyle things, and they no longer need the prescription drugs anymore. And I think that's so powerful, and I think there's more and more of that happening today.
Exactly. It's the lifestyle change really is the real kicker. That's for excellent health. So what is the best way for people to find your book and more about you?
So I have, my website is purenurture.com. And there you can find the link to the book. You can also go right to Amazon and search Pure Nurture book in their search. They're in the search engine there. And also I'm on Instagram and Facebook. So sharing lots of inspirational, funny articles and quotes and just information about health and from a holistic point of view and motherhood.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kristy. I love your tips. I'm looking forward to using them myself.
Thank you for having me on today.
Oh, you're welcome. It is my pleasure.
We have reached the end of this episode. I hope you have found a piece of information you can use to improve your life or the life of your loved ones with. If you feel that I've helped you in some way, I ask that you help me in return. Liking, rating, reviewing, sharing, and or subscribing all help me rise in the search engine rankings so I can reach and help even more people. subscribing being the most important one. Thanks in advance. As always, I will continue to bring you the health stuff you need to know.